30 seconds and counting. 25 seconds and counting. We are still go. 20 seconds. Guidance alert. The guidance system now going internal. 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, 10, 9, 8. Ignition sequence start. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello, guys. Sorry for this problem. Okay, I can be heard now. I'm not sure how all this happened. My computer rebooted in the middle of the night, as is the case with middle of the night updates. That these things just kind of automatically do it. I really apologize for the problems, but in any event, let's get started again. Good afternoon to my viewers in India. Happy Bastille Day to my viewers in France, and good morning to my viewers in Europe. Good, very early morning to everybody in the Western Hemisphere. Also, good afternoon to my viewers in Africa. All over the world, really do appreciate people who have tuned in today. We have 77 viewers already. Really happy about that, given the fact that we are awake at this ungodly hour. And doing my best to try to wake myself up as well. This is a huge moment coming up for spaceflight. But before we get going with that, we have somebody checking in from San Antonio already. Thank you very much. Appreciate you checking in. Kansas City, boy, we have some early morning people here in the United States. Utah, hello, Utah. Thank you very much for checking in today and for watching. Who else? Please let me know where you're watching from today. And once again, really appreciate you guys watching. This is a huge moment indeed happening in Atlanta, another earlier riser in the United States. New York, another early riser in the United States. The Netherlands, hello, there we go. We got some. Here comes our European viewers who are up at a little bit more of a of a less difficult hour. Netherlands and Lancashire, and we also have Nevada early morning. Hello, Finland. Yes, a perfect time for you indeed. No question about that, Miko. Also, we have Melbourne, Australia. Hello. For once, you're getting to watch at a decent time in Australia. Hello, Bury, UK. Hello, Zambia. Boy, actually, I don't. I should know where that is. Maybe my brain just isn't working today. Hello, Ireland and Denmark. Hello, of course, to my producer in Yorkshire, another space nut. Hello, Queensland. Hello, San Francisco. Hello, Germany. Hello, Oregon. Hello, India. Really do appreciate you tuning in today. And yeah, big moment, not only for India, but for spaceflight in general. We have Enfield. Hello, Enfield. Thank you very much for tuning in. 84 people watching at the moment. Once again, very glad to have you joining me here today. Very exciting stuff happening in the world of spaceflight. Hello, LT Cactus. Hope you're doing well. Hello, Scotland. Thanks very much for tuning in today. So yeah, what's going on? Is obviously this is a moon mission by India, by ISRO, but it's a very important moon mission. It's not just important; it's also significant in terms of the history of spaceflight. If indeed this goes off as planned, this will be the first ever landing at the lunar South Pole, soft landing that is. We've of course sent probes to crash into the moon and in this particular region, but never have we had a probe land anywhere near Shackleton Crater, this region that we intend to explore with the Artemis missions. Therefore, Israel and India is trailblazing here in a big way. If this goes off successfully, this probe is intended to do a wide variety of things. It doesn't just have a probe, it has a rover as well. It's quite heavy. It's over 4 metric tons, and it's comprised of 3 different elements, one of which is a transportation module that's very similar to the heavy transportation modules that they use to push satellites out to geosynchronous orbit. On top of that, there's also, of course, the lander that has 4, it's called the Vikram, by the way, and it has 4 engines on it for landing on the moon. And then in addition to the lander, there's also a pretty sizable rover included with this. So a lot going on indeed. By the way, thank you for tuning in, Massachusetts and Leeds. Really do appreciate that. Over 100 people watching now. Thank you once again for tuning in. So yeah, big stuff coming from India. Now, this is, of course, India's 3rd mission to the moon. The Chandrayaan-1 mission was a success. That particular mission took place in the early 2000s, over 10 years ago. And it was not a lander, but rather an orbiter that also sent a probe that impacted with the lunar South Pole with the intention of kicking up a lot of debris, a lot of regolith from the lunar surface, and then to examine, to scan that debris, that regolith, to see if there was any water there. And there is indeed. They discovered that at that time. So this was a follow-up mission to a similar region of the moon in order to examine the composition of the lunar surface at the South Pole in greater detail. And we feel that the scientists believe anyway that the composition at the lunar South Pole is different than the rest of the moon. There is a substantial amount of mineral resources, we think, at the lunar South Pole, and this is because an asteroid may have collided, a very big asteroid may have collided with the moon early in its developmental history. It's an impact that actually caused the moon to reform, it changed its formation, and then ended up with lots and lots of mineral resources getting deposited there. And of course, water, lots and lots of water. We think, we hope, we pray, are in this region. There's lots of evidence to suggest that it is indeed there. The Indians aren't the only ones who have sent a probe that impacted the lunar surface to kick up that debris, that regolith, to see what was in it. We have also done the same thing years ago with a Vulcan Centaur upper stage. That particular mission, the Centaur crashed into the moon while the probe was ejected out behind it. So the idea was the Centaur upper stage hit the moon first, kicked up all this debris, and then the probe flew straight through it, analyzing it as much as it possibly could before it hit the lunar surface as well. And in that time, it was able to find, in a very short amount of time, it was able to find lunar ice. So yeah, we believe that there's a substantial amount of ice there, which of course is absolutely critical to our plans of setting up a lunar base and establishing any sort of industry on the moon. If we're wrong about this, if there isn't a lot of ice in this region of the moon, it will be much, much more difficult to establish any sort of permanent human presence on the moon. Very difficult indeed. So over 130 people tuned in. Also want to quickly give you guys, before these guys are going to be going live here soon, ISRO will, but just to give you a quick update on my current situation. I've raised sufficient funds through PayPal and also through my GoFundMe to fund the first two stops on my tour. Tentatively right now, those first two stops are Orlando in mid-August, and then Norfolk, Virginia in late August. That's if everything goes well. Right now, what I'm just essentially doing is raising sufficient funds for transportation and hotel. I'm paying for the venue, and then hoping to keep ticket prices down, with the more support I get on the front end. With every $10 I receive, by the way, you get a ticket and a digital copy of my new book, How Starship Will Save the World. And I am well into writing that right now. Lots of research. I've written books before, but they've mostly been works of fiction. This is a lot different, a lot of research, but it's been a very interesting pursuit indeed. So as I say, if you're interested in any of that, it's all in the description. Okay, enough self-promotion. Back to the situation with India. I'd like to go ahead and check real quick my Discord. Just 1 second here. I'm going to check my Discord server and check the live Q&A on the Discord for my Discord supporters. See if I have anything in particular going on there. Let's see. Live stream Q&A. Nothing new apparently. So yeah, nothing new there. And if you're on Discord, if you happen to be on Discord and you want to ask questions through that, you can through the live stream Q&A. And actually my producer's putting a post on there right now as I speak. Okay. So yeah, once again, trying to get my head together today. I think I'm going to get some more coffee if you don't mind here. I'll tell you, this is these very early mornings. They take a bit out of me, that's for sure. But in any event, that is the nature of the industry that I've decided to be in, covering space flight. And that's what happens. You get up when it's necessary. So we're getting pretty close to the time that ISRO is going to be going live. We'll be listening to their broadcast if there come any times when they're discussing some really basic stuff, stuff that may not be as interesting to the viewers. Then I'll cut in. Otherwise, we'll be listening to what they have to say. And by the way, the rocket that they're going to be using, the geosynchronous launch vehicle, it has a very basic, very simple name, and the GSLV-3 is their newest heavy lift rocket, and thus far it has a perfect operational history. We'll see if they continue to bat 1,000 with that. But thus far, they've done a damn good job with this rocket. It is the same rocket, by the way, that deployed 2 different sets of satellites for OneWeb. It's becoming the workhorse of the Indian Space Agency. And once again, the lander, another question was asked. I did talk about that earlier, but the lander weighs about 4 metric tons. It has 3 components. One is a transportation component, which is similar to the kind of transportation component that's used on satellites, engines, etc., for big satellites that go to geosynchronous orbit. That is. Then you also have the lander itself component, and then you have a rover component. And once again, the primary mission of this probe is to gather compositional information about the moon. That is one of the main things that it's going to be gathering. Is what kind of water ice presence do we have at the moon? What sort of minerals do we have there? Do we have useful minerals there? It's interesting to note that the Chinese have discovered an entirely new mineral on the moon. It's now called Chang'e, named after the Chang'e series of probes that they've sent there. And we suspect, by the way, that Chang'e contains helium-3. So very useful mineral that they have discovered. So who knows? India may be making a breakthrough, some breakthrough discoveries with this particular mission. Also, it's important to note that the probe will take some time to reach the moon. It will orbit the Earth many, many times, continuing to get gravitational slingshots each time as it continues to climb. Orbit-wise, it's more of the kind of path that we've gotten with some of the other lunar probes that have been sent out.
Eventually,
it's not a
the
direct
destination of
flight,
Chandrayaan-3 is
and
the
it will
moon,
not be
located
attempting a landing
384,000
until
kilometers
August.
away,
ISRO is now
which will
live.
be
We're going to
achieved
go
through a
ahead and
series
listen
of
in
orbit
and
raising
see where
and
we
course
are with that.
correction maneuvers over the next few weeks.
Please.
नमस्कार।
Yes, please
भारतीय
do.
अंतरिक्ष अभियान और इसरो के गौरवपूर्ण इतिहास में एक और अध्याय जुड़ने जा रहा है, जिसके साक्षी हम सब होंगे। आज 14 जुलाई 2023 को इसरो के सतीश धवन अंतरिक्ष केंद्र के श्रीहरिकोटा के द्वितीय प्रमोचन मंच से भारतीय मानक समय के अनुसार दोपहर 2:35:17 पर LVM-3M4 चंद्रयान-3 मिशन का प्रमोचन किया जाए।
So, guys, it appears that their broadcast, quite understandably, is being done, I think, in Hindi. Once again, I am so ignorant of Indian languages and culture, etc., that I could make lots of mistakes here. But I think that's what's being spoken right now, and for understandable reasons. Obviously, this is an Indian mission. This is an important moment to the people of India, and they are under no obligation to make this easy for us Americans, us English speakers, because I would say there's a good chance that there are far more Indians watching this broadcast than there are Americans, Canadians, English speakers, etc. So yeah, neat stuff happening right now. Obviously, they're probably, all I can assume is that they're informing people about the mission, about the process. One would hope that everything is nominal, but once again, I can't say with any sort of confidence. I speak absolutely none of the languages that are spoken in India, not a single word. I might have a better chance if they were speaking Mandarin or if they were speaking Japanese. I know a few words in those languages, but I certainly don't know anything from this region. So in any event, now they're speaking in English though, are they? Are we cutting in between English and Hindi? I'm listening in. Okay, okay, now we're speaking in English again.
We are
Let's
about
go ahead and cut
31
them in
minutes
again.
from
They're
the
speaking
scheduled
English
launch
now.
time. You're watching this live from the Mission Control Center. Apart from Doordarshan, you can also watch the launch event on ISRO website, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter.
आपको ज्ञात हो चंद्रयान
Okay.
1 22 अक्टूबर 2008 को PSLV C11 द्वारा प्रक्षेपित किया गया था
So
और
once
8
again,
नवंबर
we're back to Hindi at the moment, and we're going to be cutting back and forth, I would assume, between the two languages, um, and we'll see how things go. Many languages are spoken in India, by the way, but the Hindi, I believe, is by far the dominant language. Once again, I could be completely off base here. There's so many things that I don't know about the culture there. I feel embarrassed about that, but I just don't. So, in any event, yeah, no subtitles, I'm afraid. So, in any event, all we can do is I'm just going to go ahead and continue to inform you guys on what's going on, or just the situation with the rocket. Once again, this particular rocket has a perfect operational record. It has launched two different sets of OneWeb satellites. And we're now getting a layout of the rocket itself. It's a familiar configuration. Although this is a rocket that is for the most part entirely designed and built in India. They in the past they'd made use of Russian engines, a lot of Russian technology. Now they are transitioning completely over to Indian technology. Very exciting stuff indeed. This rocket is capable of lifting pretty substantial payloads. It also has a 5-meter fairing, which puts it in the same kind of category with a lot of the other new heavy lift rockets. It doesn't have the capability of the Falcon Heavy. It can't lift that much. A lot of its lifting capabilities are kind of kept vague. I mean, they talk about 8 metric tons to low Earth orbit. That is seriously lowballing its capabilities. It's way beyond that because this thing is also capable of lifting 8 metric tons to a geosynchronous orbit. So I think that it's a lot of its total capabilities are not clearly broadcasted. I apologize for meter fairing. You see, that's where a lot of times, plus it's early in the morning, I'm just trying to my head swimming a bit. It's been a while since I've done it, since I've covered an Indian launch, and most of my reading about this mission was about the probe and not as much about the rocket. Once again, the things that I do know about it is it, of course, uses solid rocket boosters. Along with liquid engines. On top of that, it also it has, as I say, a perfect operational record, and those OneWeb launches, which really took India into a totally different category. It really made ISRO into a big time player in competitive space flight, simply because they deployed a very high profile customer who had lost their previous launch provider, which was Russia. They had lost the Soyuz rockets that they relied upon tremendously in order to get their constellation into orbit, and with very little notice. It was previously thought that SpaceX was going to pick up all of the slack, and that turned out to not be the case. In a very short amount of time, India was able to adapt the payload to this particular rocket and make it work, not once but twice. Big accomplishments indeed, and it means that India most probably is going to be grabbing some big some very big customers here in the future. And of course, we are not that far off from manned space flight for India as well. That's coming very soon, as soon as next year. And once again, we're not talking about the most ambitious manned space flight, just a few astronauts, but still, it is so difficult to get to space, let alone getting human beings to space. And India is right on the cusp of accomplishing that as well. And they are also working on a space station. So huge stuff going on indeed with ISRO, and I am of course very exciting about that. Also, we need to keep in mind that that they are doing this on a shoestring budget. The cost of like one SLS launch is the equivalent of the entire ISRO budget. So they're doing this for a very small amount of money as well. So big accomplishments from this new player. Neat stuff indeed coming from ISRO. Very impressed with this, and looking forward. And look at those crowds. And one should not be terribly surprised about that. Launch facility for ISRO is in southern India. On the If I'm remembering correctly, it's on the east coast, and very close to the space center. Actually, the space center is located, oh my god, again in southern India. Now I'm forgetting the name of the city. I'm sure somebody will put it on there. I was just researching that not that long ago, but in any event, we have very large crowds gathering in what is probably tremendous heat this summer. India has been experiencing some extremely punishing temperatures. Some of their northernmost provinces, actually, northernmost states, have been really roasted lately. And as a result, almost 100 people died of heat related illnesses just a couple of weeks ago in a region of India that is usually a lot cooler than the rest of the country. But it was crazy hot there, and India faced some a grim situation indeed. So in any event, exciting stuff coming here soon. Okay, I think we have they're speaking English
Fully
right now.
assembled solid rocket
Yeah, we'll
booster
go ahead and
is
cut back in.
handled carefully with a crane and being lowered on to the mobile launch pedestal as an integrated rocket. The igniter assembly then takes place, and this is the strap-on nose cones. On your TV screens, it is the core L110 stage being brought to the second vehicle assembly building for
Thank you
tilting
so much, Ryan. Really
and assembly between the
appreciate your
S200
support.
boosters.
It makes a big difference to me, let me tell you. All of you guys' support allows me to bring this stuff to you. So thank you so much. Okay, I think they just swapped back to Hindi again. Speaking some of the basics of the rocket. Again, nothing tremendously unusual about this rocket in terms of its just conventional liquid fueled rocket engines plus the solid rocket boosters. However, India has plans of adapting this rocket to reusability as time goes on. They seem to be embracing the concept of reusability pretty aggressively right now, and they intend to start testing some of that technology here soon. So once again, India doing their best to ride the bleeding edge of spaceflight technology. And once again, if we consider what they're doing now compared to some other, very wealthy, very technologically advanced countries that haven't come close to doing this, um, this is something, definitely to keep in mind. There are many nations on this planet that have not successfully landed anything on the moon. They haven't even attempted to land anything on the moon. Israel attempted not that long ago and failed. The Japanese attempted not that long ago and failed. So really what we have right now, if India pulls this off, they will be number 4 to successfully soft land an object on the moon. Thank you so much, JR. Really do appreciate your support. Third shift. Yes, indeed. Third shift. Thank you so much indeed for bringing that to me. Also, they're accomplishing this very affordably. Another reason that India compete so well in in the space flight industry is the fact that they can manufacture a lot of this stuff less expensively than we can in Europe or in the United States. And so as a result, even with expendable rockets, they have very, very competitive prices. This won't be the case forever, though, in India. India's economy is evolving. India's economy, people are becoming wealthier all the time. Therefore, wages are increasing all the time in India, which means they're going to have to, embrace reusability if they want to remain competitive. And guess what? That's exactly what they're doing. So that's very exciting indeed. So yeah, neat stuff. Neat stuff. Can't wait for Neutron. I agree. Neutron is an amazing project that Rocket Lab is currently working on. Once again, Rocket Lab. Yeah, we call it an American company, but come on, all of us know that it's a New Zealand company, and so we have space flight in high development mode, in overdrive right now, worldwide. And a lot of countries participating. It appears, by the way, that Spain may be the first country that accomplishes reusability in Europe. And they're about to launch, a private company is about to launch a reusable rocket there. Okay.
43.5 meters tall and
English.
642 tons heavy launch vehicle has been operationalized after an experimental and 2 developmental missions. Mission executives on your screen. That's the spacecraft director.
Control to note event number 4
and associate spacecraft director. LVM-3 is India's largest and heaviest launch vehicle, ferrying Indian and international customer satellites.
Vehicle director to mission director. LVM-3 M4
things are looking optimal right now.
Mission director Roger.
Mission director to
अब हम उड़ान से 19 मिनट 12 सेकंड की दूरी पर
health is normal and cleared for launch.
Mission director Roger.
So far, everything is looking very good. Thus far, everything we're hearing from their staff appears to indicate that this launch vehicle is ready to go.
रेंज ऑपरेशन डायरेक्टर, टेलीमेट्री ट्रैकिंग एंड कमांड डायरेक्टर, सैटेलाइट डायरेक्टर और व्हीकल डायरेक्टर अपने तंत्रों की जानकारी
And this, of course, is an extremely important mission for India. Those OneWeb missions were extremely important, of course, because that was a very high-paying customer. But at the same time, this is a critical moment. This is a very critical mission for India, as they are about to do something that nobody else has done. And that is attempt to land a vehicle at the lunar South Pole.
Favorable weather conditions, mission director hereby authorizes for the launch operation sequence of launch of LVM-3 M4 Chandrayaan-3 mission at 14 hours 35 minutes 17 seconds Indian Standard Time today, the 14th July 2023, from second launch pad of SDSC Shar.
Control Roger. All stations to
Almost 200 people tuned in, by the way. Thanks for watching. Please like, please subscribe.
जी हाँ, अभी आपने घोषणा सुनी। मिशन डायरेक्टर ने इस लॉन्च के लिए ऑटोमेटिक लॉन्च सीक्वेंस शुरू करने का
Yeah, the launch should take place at 5:05 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, in about 18 minutes from now is when it's is scheduled to launch. Again, launch timing for any lunar missions are extremely important. It's critical to launch at a particular time frame in order to make all this work. And once again, quick reminder to everybody, please like, please subscribe, and thanks so much to everybody for your support through super chats and donations, through the various ways to do it in the description. That's what keeps this channel going. You guys are awesome. Thank you so much for all of that. Getting really excited as we are counting down to an extremely important moment in the history of not only Indian spaceflight, but spaceflight in general. Once again, to reiterate, nobody has successfully landed a vehicle at the lunar South Pole. India has attempted to do so with their previous mission, and this will be they'll take another shot at it. It was a software error that led to the second mission failing. The first Chandrayaan mission orbited the moon and sent down a probe that impacted at the lunar South Pole and sent up debris, sent up regolith, which was then analyzed to determine what was in the regolith, and they found ice crystals amongst other things. But of course, they want to get a closer look at the lunar South Pole. Everybody wants to get a closer look at the South Pole, obviously. NASA has quite a number of missions scheduled to go to the lunar South Pole. But guess what? If this goes off as planned, India will get there first. And what a distinction to have. So I'm pulling for them. Definitely. The fact that they've been able to put this mission together after Chandrayaan-2 failed, get another probe together, do some improvements, do some design changes, etc., and to get this thing flying. And once again, to get it flying before any of the CLIPS missions through NASA could get off the ground, and that includes Intuitive Machines mission that's being launched by SpaceX, and the Peregrine mission being launched by ULA and Vulcan Centaur. If this goes off as planned, they're going to beat both of those missions to the lunar South Pole. So yeah, this is a big mission, not only for bragging rights, but also for getting some critical information about the makeup of the lunar regolith at the South Pole, at the lunar South Pole. This is extremely important that we get as much information as we can about that, because that's where we intend to build a base. Producer, are they running this right now? Okay, so their stream is it, because we saw this B-roll before, so I was just making sure that this is what was supposed to be there. Right. Gotcha. Okay. So yeah, in any event, this is sort of a promotional thing for it. So yeah, once again, to reiterate, the probe itself is comprised of it's over 4 metric tons, first of all. Therefore, it requires a pretty heavy lift rocket to fling something that big all the way to the moon. It's made up of 3 different components. Number 1 is the transportation module, which of course has the engines, etc., similar to the types of engines that you use on a satellite bus to push it from GTO all the way to geosynchronous orbit, for example. But in this case, of course, it's going to push it all the way to the moon for a landing attempt in August. And then in addition to that, you have the lander, and then you have the rover. And all of these are fairly sizable vehicles, so therefore you need a pretty heavy rocket in order to pull it off. And once again, they're going to be carrying out quite a bit of scientific work, but the most important thing that they're going to be doing, as you can see here on this particular promotional video from them, they're looking for water ice. Along with other unique minerals. Hopefully, perhaps a new mineral will be discovered, as the Chinese did recently with this new mineral called Changasite, which we think includes helium-3. So, the Chinese have already made a huge breakthrough. Perhaps India will as well. But as you can see here, nearly 4 metric tons. This thing is very sizable. In an age of CubeSats and microsats, that sort of thing. This is a pretty big probe, and therefore it needs a heavy lift rocket to do the job. So yeah, this is a critical moment, and so it's understandable why we have such a colossal crowd gathered in India to watch what's about to happen, to hopefully watch history be made in the next 12 minutes. Let's go ahead and I'm going to check the live stream Q&A again. Nothing on live stream Q&A. If you are a Discord supporter and you want to ask a question there, feel free to do that. Over 200 people watching. Thanks so much for tuning in today. Please like, please subscribe. And once again, thanks to everybody who has contributed either through super chats or anywhere in the description. By the way, if you're interested in becoming a member, you can do that by hitting that little join button or by supporting us through Patreon. And that gives you membership to our Discord server, which gives you access, first of all, to a community of over 500 people, many of whom are heavily involved in the spaceflight industry, people who provide me with a lot of the information I use for my videos, and also it provides you with access to me, DM me, etc. on Discord if you're interested in doing that, plus early release content and unique content. Okay, once again, enough. An overview of what this mission is all about. Ambitious indeed. Space is hard. Landing on the moon is especially hard because you have no atmosphere. Therefore, no parachutes are going to work. It's entirely dependent on your engines and on your software, on your automated systems to make all of that work properly. In some ways, that makes it more difficult than landing, say, on Mars or landing on Titan or landing on Venus, etc. So yeah, they still have a long ways to go, even if this launch goes perfectly. So obviously, we wish them the very best. Thank you so much. Oh, hey, Supax, thanks very much for being a member for 20 months. Supax being one of my longtime viewers in Canada, great guy. Been a supporter of this channel for a really, really long time. Thanks very much. Okay, what do we have here? Just want to make sure I keep up with over 230 people watching right now. Wow, you guys are amazing. Thanks so much for tuning in today at this ungodly hour, almost 5 in the morning here on the East Coast of the United States, even earlier in the morning in other regions of the country. You guys in Europe, you have it the easiest, I think. Well, I don't know. A lot of viewers in India, it's mid-afternoon there, so I guess you have a pretty easy time as well. Any issues thus far, producer? Okay, everything's going well. We're looking good at the moment. Do we have any commentary in English on the? Okay, yeah, we'll get back there right now.
On 22nd of July 2019 consisted of lunar orbiter, lander named Vikram, and rover named Pragyan. The orbiter is still providing insightful scientific information through its payloads like spectrometers, synthetic aperture radar, and cameras.
Chandrayaan-3 की चंद्रमा के
Right there, we're seeing the orbital path that they're going to need to take. Like a lot of lunar missions, unmanned lunar missions, this thing will orbit the Earth, getting a gravitational slingshot each time, and continue to increase its orbital height bit by bit until eventually it's capable of escaping the Earth's gravity, and then ultimately orbiting the moon and gradually making its way towards a position to where the lander can be dropped. So this is not one of those 3-day straight shot Apollo type missions. This is something that takes a considerably longer period of time. Bear with me here. Yes, and once again, we're looking at the propulsion module here. As I mentioned before, this module is similar to the types of propulsion systems that they use for their bigger satellites that have to go to geosynchronous orbit. kind of a similar setup to those. In other words, something with the propulsion capability, the engines rather, that are capable of carrying the vehicle, not of course not only to geosynchronous orbit, but also to escape Earth's gravity entirely. Once again, can we cut in here?
Journey of Chandrayaan-3 to the moon. The spacecraft consists of propulsion module, lander, and rover. Lander is planned to touch down at south pole of moon. The major 10 phases of the mission are: the first phase, called the Earth-centric phase, comprises of pre-launch, launch, ascent, and earthbound maneuver. While the second phase is the lunar transfer phase, as the name suggests, the Chandrayaan spacecraft moves closer to the moon. Next 8 phases are in the moon orbit, the third being the lunar orbit insertion, followed by the moon-bound maneuvers phase, which mark the fourth phase. And next is, it is now that the propulsion module separates from the lunar module
6 minutes.
when 100 by 100 circular orbit of the moon is achieved. The Chandrayaan-3 in its sixth phase carries out deboost from
Sorry, go ahead.
100 kilometers to 100 by 30 kilometers orbit.
The rocket is now
Followed
transitioned
by
to
the
internal
pre-landing
power.
phase as
Everything's
seventh
looking
phase.
very good
And then
thus
the most
far.
awaited
We
landing
are
phase
approximately
takes
5
place.
minutes away from launch. Getting close. I have to admit, I'm getting excited. This is a big moment. I mean, mankind is making a concerted effort to go back to the moon, and this time to stay. And India is going to be an important part of that here. This mission could gather some extremely useful information about the lunar South Pole that could help guide our subsequent missions. So, it's worth it to keep in mind that the Peregrine mission from Astrobotic actually isn't going to land at the lunar South Pole. One of their later missions, the Viper, will, but not the Peregrine. So this is gonna, if everything goes smoothly, this probe will provide some very good advanced information to NASA for their Artemis missions. And now that that India has committed wholeheartedly to America's, and ESA, NASA and ESA's vision for how we expand into space, how we go to the moon, because they signed the Artemis Accords. Very big deal, considering that China and Russia has been holding off on that, and in India now has embraced the Artemis Accords. That's a very big deal indeed. So there's a good chance that we're going to have lots of collaboration between India and NASA. On the official stream, there's over 1 million views over there. And once again, not surprising, because we're talking about the most populous nation on the planet getting ready for a very, very big moment. Very big moment indeed. Okay, we're transitioning over to their stream now.
Gaining from the heritage of Chandrayaan-2, the Chandrayaan-3 is upgraded in several aspects for the enhanced robustness through extensive ground tests and simulation.
Onboard computer in flight mode.
ऑटोमेटिक लॉन्च सीक्वेंस जारी है। इस दौरान सभी संचार तंत्रों की स्वास्थ्य जांच, बैटरी आवेशन पूर्ण किया जा चुका है। कुछ अंतिम गतिविधियां जैसे ऑनबोर्ड कंप्यूटर पर रियल टाइम प्रोग्राम लोड करना, पायरो लाइन को आर्म मोड में लाना, गैस टैंक्स का अंतिम आवेशन, और यह सभी घटनाएं संतोषजनक तरीके से पूर्ण की जा रही हैं।
-3 minutes.
अब हम उड़ान से 3 मिनट की दूरी पर हैं।
Godspeed, Chandrayaan-3. Let's go.
प्रमोशन तथा इस प्रमोशन की घटनाक्रम को पहले ही बताया जा चुका है। सर्वप्रथम दोनों S-200 स्ट्रैप-ऑन बूस्टर प्रज्वलित किए जाएंगे T0 पर।
Make them full screen, but I can be heard. Make it to where I can be heard. If you disagree, producer, go ahead. I get it. That's fine. Go ahead.
S200 के
Go ahead.
प्रज्वलन के 108 सेकंड के पश्चात L110 जो कि
minus 2 minutes,
तरल नोदक पर आधारित चरण है, इसका
Less than
प्रज्वलन
2
शुरू कर
minutes
दिया
now,
जाएगा।
guys. Less than 2 minutes. We'll be cutting away from me completely when we're up to the
L110 के
final
प्रज्वलन के
countdown,
पश्चात करीब
entering the
137
initial
सेकंड
launch
पर
sequence.
S200 बूस्टर्स को
Be
यान से पृथक कर दिया
assured that if
जाएगा।
this goes off well, I'll be going nuts, though.
We are close to 1.5 minutes from the scheduled launch time.
90 seconds.
सभी दर्शकों को ज्ञात है यह एक ऐतिहासिक मिशन
Let's go,
होने
guys.
वाला
Come
है।
on, let's go.
पूरे भारतवर्ष की आंखें इसमें हैं। इस यादगार पल के लिए यहाँ सब उपस्थित
60 seconds.
minus 1 minute,
All
अब हम
subs
उड़ान
down.
से 1 मिनट की
minus
दूरी पर
45 seconds, minus 50 seconds,
All sequencers armed.
Stage ready.
minus
TB ready.
45 seconds, minus 40 seconds,
L110
Gotcha.
VHPP opened. MOV
Minus
79.
30
30
seconds
seconds.
and counting.
minus 30 seconds,
Real-time programs activated.
minus 25 seconds,
L110 VSPP opened.
minus 20 seconds, minus 15, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, 0. Plus 5 seconds.
Liftoff normal.
P1
Here
tracking.
we have a majestic liftoff of
Yeah!
rocket carrying India's prestigious
Let's
Chandrayaan-3
go, let's go,
spacecraft.
let's
P2
go.
tracking.
प्रज्वलन और सफलतापूर्ण उत्थापन LVM-3M4 रॉकेट का।
Fantastic takeoff.
यह भीमकाय रॉकेट आसमान को चीरते हुए अपनी भयानक दहाड़ से चारों ओर कंपन उत्पन्न कर रहा है। इसे हम यहाँ महसूस कर सकते हैं और यही दहाड़ है जो वैज्ञानिकों को रोमांचित करती है।
Keep climbing, keep climbing.
LVM-3 के उत्थापन के साथ ही हमारे अंतरिक्ष यान चंद्रयान-3 की चंद्रमा की यात्रा प्रारंभ हो चुकी है।
So far things are looking good.
As the
So far
rocket is
things
soaring
looking
through the
good.
clear
Fingers
skies,
crossed.
every second moving closer to the accomplishment of the most important milestone in its mission to moon. Every Indian witnessing the launch live is content with the feeling of watching history in the making.
Everything's looking good. Everything's looking good.
चंद्रमा की सतह पर अपना छाप
Again,
छोड़ने
I'm a
के लिए
few seconds
चंद्रयान-3 अपने
behind
मिशन को
on
पूरा
what I'm
करने
seeing
निकल चुका है।
compared to what is currently happening.
वर्तमान में
So if
दोनों
anything does
S200
happen, I'll be a
स्टेप-ऑन
few
बूस्टर
seconds
सामान
delayed, but
निष्पादन करते
so
हुए
far
अपनी निर्दिष्ट
things
कक्षा की ओर
looking
बढ़ रहे हैं।
gorgeous.
The S200 motors thrusting simultaneously, generating a peak thrust of close to 6,000 kilonewtons in vacuum.
Right.
They are made
P2
of
change route to
HTPB-based solid propellant. 204.5 tons in each strap-on. Close to 2 tons of propellant being burnt each second.
S200 स्टेप-ऑन बूस्टर्स का कुल
So far things still going
प्रज्वलन काल
smoothly.
126 सेकंड का है और अभी अभी घोषणा की गई
Don't know if we
L110
have
स्टेज
we
का भी
should have
प्रज्वलन शुरू हो
SRB
चुका है।
separation here pretty soon.
Apart from the strap-ons,
Performance normal.
the core stage has also commenced its
repeat, producer.
operation. This stage based
SRB
on combination
SRB separation
Stages are
complete.
separated.
Everything looking
of
fantastic.
hypergolic earth storable liquid
Group
propellants
guidance initiated.
Obviously,
UH-25
the
and N204.
MECO and
Now the
second stage
S200s have been separated.
ignition, all of these things are extremely
घटनाक्रम
critical
के अनुसार
points.
यह यान
Things where we have encountered
इस यान से
problems with some
S200
some
स्टेप-ऑन बूस्टर्स
launches
को
recently with,
सफलतापूर्वक पृथक कर दिया
the
गया है।
Japanese H3.
यह काम
um,
सेपरेशन
and,
मोटर्स की मदद से किया जाता
and
है।
also with the ill-fated Virgin
इसके
Orbit
बाद
launch.
L110 तरल नोदक
So
पर
far,
आधारित और
everything
विकास
looking
इंजन
good.
के
And
साथ
yes, we're going to
यह
have
चरण सामान्य
animation. The
निष्पादन करता
Indians
हुआ अपने
definitely
उद्दिष्ट
don't have
कक्षा की ओर बढ़
the
रहा है
extremely exciting, slick kind of video that we expect.
अभियान
3 minutes.
क्लोज लूप
Yeah, which
गाइडेंस
is
के
that they,
अंतर्गत है
yeah, their rockets don't
L110
smile for
stage
the cameras the
performance
way
normal.
ours do. But you know what? That's okay. If they get the job done,
The
that's
trajectory
what
of
matters.
launch vehicle is closely following the prediction.
Thus far, everything is still.
Payload
We
fairing
just had
separated.
fairing separation.
जी हाँ पेलोड फेयरिंग
Everything's
को
still
पृथक कर
looking
दिया गया है
very
यान
good
से क्योंकि
indeed.
यान अब 114.8 किलोमीटर की ऊंचाई प्राप्त कर चुका है इस चरण का कुल प्रज्वलन काल 200 सेकंड
All
होता
right,
है
so now
और
of
इस
course
दौरान
we're
यह
waiting
करीब
for
1600
this
किलो न्यूटन का
all-important
प्रणुद उत्पन्न
MECO,
करता है
and
We are
second
220
stage
seconds past
separation,
the launch time.
ignition
Current
of
altitude
the
is
of the
135
second stage
kilometers.
engines. And then there's a lot of
In the
other steps
200
that we need
seconds
to
of
go
its
through as well
operation,
that
the
we won't be covering
L110
in
stage
this
carries the rocket
broadcast.
up to
There are many,
175.5
many
kilometers
things that this
altitude
spacecraft needs
and
to do
imparts a
during
relative
its
velocity of
gravitational flybys
4.18
of the Earth
kilometers per second. That is
before it makes its way to
250
the moon. So
kilometers every
many
minute.
things are going to happen here in order for all of this to work out well. But
L110
thus
stage
far,
performance
everything
normal.
looking very smooth. Everything looking nominal
LVM-3 M4 रॉकेट का द्वितीय
from
चरण
Chandrayaan-3.
पूर्णतः सामान्य निष्पादन करते हुए
Thus far, it
इस चरण
appears
में
if
कुल
everything
113
continues to
टन
go
के तरल
smoothly
नोदक
here,
भरे
that we
जाते हैं
have another flawless launch from India's latest rocket, their latest
N204
heavy
तथा
lift rocket, the
UH-25
geosynchronous launch
अर्थ
vehicle,
स्टोरेबल प्रोपेलेंट को
GSLV-3.
ईंधन के रूप में
Very
प्रयोग किया जाता है
simple,
इस चरण
very
में
functional, and utilitarian name for this thing, but it gets the job done. Thus
Stage
far,
ignition is
it appears
authorized.
that this rocket may add to its flawless
अगला
performance.
चरण C-25 का प्रज्वलन भावी है
Plus 5 minutes.
On the ISRO stream, by the way, there's 1.8 million people watching. Obviously, we have people all over the world watching. There we go, second stage separation.
C-25 ignition command. 25 ignition confirmed.
That's a piece of really good news that the
Thus far,
third
everything's
stage
looking
has
very
started
good.
its operation. The C-25 stage has been ignited.
जी हाँ एक बहुत ही जटिल प्रक्रिया होती है क्रायो इंजन
We
का
appear to
ignition
have
और
the
प्रज्वलन के साथ
the
ही
second stage
तालियों की
engines
गड़गड़ाहट
doing
से
just
गूंज उठा
fine.
है मिशन नियंत्रण कक्ष
So we're going to confirm that this is indeed the case.
तृतीय चरण C-25 वर्तमान में
Everything seems
प्रज्वलन
nominal.
उत्पन्न
The
कर रहा
rocket
है
seems to be climbing as
पूर्णतः
planned,
सामान्य
as
स्पीड तंत्र
expected.
पूर्णतः सामान्य है
And thus far, we appear to be at about 250.
180
No,
kilonewtons. Thrust
I'm
impact
not sure
units for
exactly
this
how many
stage
kilometers. I
develops
didn't see
with
that
its
on the
28.6 tons propellant combination
197
of
kilometers,
liquid
almost
hydrogen
200
and liquid
kilometers,
oxygen.
and it's continuing to climb as expected,
Present
as it
altitude
should.
is
So thus far, everything's still looking very nominal during this process.
का C-25 यह क्रायो ईंधन पर आधारित चरण है जिसमें लिक्विड हाइड्रोजन लिक्विड ऑक्सीजन का इस्तेमाल होता है इसमें कुल 28 टन का क्रायो ईंधन पूरी सुरक्षा तथा सावधानी के साथ भरा जाता है इस चरण में
Yes,
186
indeed. It
किलोन्यूटन
does
का
appear
प्रणोद
that
उत्पन्न होता है और
India
यह
has,
640
thus far at least, it
सेकंड तक
appears that
प्रज्वलित
India
रहेगा
has successfully punched their
इसमें
ticket
मिशन नियंत्रण के
to
लिए
the
इंजन टिम्बल का
lunar
इस्तेमाल किया
South
जाता
Pole.
है
Of course, it's
क्रायो
also
ईंधन
worth
कक्ष
mentioning
नाभिक
that the
846
Chandrayaan-2
सेकंड के
probe
करीब
went
होता
through
है
this process and got through all of this just fine as well. It was at the last second with an awful software failure that led to the failure
currently
of
the
that
rocket
probe.
is at an
So we
altitude
have
of
quite a
210
wait ahead of
kilometers.
us, weeks ahead of us, before we find out whether or not this mission
While there is
is
no much
an
variation in
unqualified
altitude,
success.
this stage will add to the relative
But
velocity
still,
immensely.
they've taken a huge first step, and also this new launch vehicle, the GSLV-3, continuing to perform just fantastically, all looking very impressive from ISRO.
Cryo stage
आइए
performance
अब आपको
normal.
पेलोड के बारे में जानकारी देते हैं लैंडर मॉड्यूल्स पे कई
No idea what
वैज्ञानिक
just happened with the
प्रयोगों के लिए
payload.
पेलोड्स लगाए गए हैं
Sounds like whatever it was, it's nominal.
India's prestigious lunar landing
All right, so
spacecraft
we are moving
Chandrayaan-3 is
towards
moving
the
closer to
planned
its intended
injection spot, as
injection
you
spot in the
heard.
orbit.
So we just have a little ways to go here, but everything so far
The
has gone
propulsion
very,
module
very
provides
well indeed.
propulsion for earthbound maneuvers, translunar injection, and moonbound orbits. It also has a payload to study the spectral and polarimetric measurements of Earth and lunar orbit. The abbreviated name of the payload is SHAPE. Among the payloads of the lander module, the following are included. A landwehr probe called Rambha to measure the near-surface plasma density, that is the density of ions and electrons, and its
To answer the
changes with
question on
time.
how this is collaborating with
Second
NASA, a
payload is
question was just
Chandra's
asked about
surface
that. Recently, a meeting
thermophysical
was made
experiment or
between the
CHAST
leaders
to
of
measure
ISRO
thermal
and NASA
properties of
to,
lunar
and they
surface
made a
near polar
commitment
regions.
to contribute to
To
each
measure
other's
the
success as
seismicity
they're
around the
making
landing
their way
site
to the
and
moon, and
delineating
that they
the
would freely
structure of the
share
lunar crust and
information.
mantle, the
India
payload
also signed the Artemis Accords,
ISRO-ISA
which was
is
a
there.
big step that China
The
and
rover,
Russia has
after
not
its
done.
descent, will further the scientific
Rheostat
study
performance
objectives
normal.
through its own payloads.
Right. And by the
For
way,
better
if you want
understanding
to
of
check out
chemical
To the
and
Future,
mineralogical
that
composition of lunar surface
channel where
with
I'm
or
doing
laser-induced
guest
breakdown
roles on a
spectroscope is
lot
included.
lately, go to The
Another
Future.
payload
The
is
latest
the
episode
alpha
has a lot of
particle X-ray
information about
spectrometer.
that. But the long and the short of it is, now that they've signed the Artemis
जी
Accords,
हाँ, लैंडर मॉड्यूल
information will be
में
shared
3 पेलोड
freely. And
हैं,
since this
रोवर में
probe
2
is landing
और
at the
propulsion मॉड्यूल
lunar
में
South
2
Pole,
पेलोड
that means
भेजे
that
गए हैं.
all the information that NASA gets from this,
चंद्रयान
all the
3 के
information
स्वदेशी
India
लैंडर और
gathers, will
रोवर
be
के
extremely
विविध भारों का
important
इस्तेमाल किया
to
जा रहा
all
है.
of
यह
NASA's future
अंतर ग्रहीय
activities at
मिशन
the
के
lunar
लिए
South
आवश्यक
Pole,
तकनीकों
which
का
is where we
प्रदर्शन है.
intend to build our base,
लैंडर के
where
पास
we
यह क्षमता
intend
है
to
कि वह
mine
चंद्रमा
ice,
चंद्रमा की
where we
ऊबड़-खाबड़
intend to
सतह
do
में भी
so many things. Okay, as you can see, now we have the altitude dropping, but that is actually to be expected. If you see the path, the projected path of the vehicle, it's actually intended to settle into a slightly lower orbit, from what I can see, before it starts in order to get to the proper injection spot. So even though the altitude appears to be dropping, that's not a bad sign. Performance seems to still be nominal. According to what we're hearing in the background, everything still seems to be going well. Nominal apogee was just achieved. Okay, just to so yes, again, I mean, I can't. Nothing could be going smoother about this so far. I mean, I can't see anything going wrong with this. You know, you never can tell, but thus far, all of the things, the places where rockets tend to fail, all of the moments where things could go wrong, it hasn't. So thus far, it's looking like another big success for India's new launch vehicle. And once again, this thing has a flawless record. It hasn't had a single anomaly thus far. That is a rare accomplishment for anybody in spaceflight, let alone a nation that's just getting into the industry. So this is a big accomplishment indeed.
We
Regardless
have
of what
told you
happens with
about
the
the
probe itself,
Chandrayaan-3's
the
upgrades
rocket is doing very
in the
well.
aspects of enhanced robustness through extensive ground tests and simulation.
Right.
During the last phase of
They're
landing,
letting
the
us know how
module
the
will have
landing
a vertical
procedure will
velocity
go.
of
And yes, it's going to have to descend to where it's going less than 1 meter per second at the time of landing. Very typical, and a difficult thing to accomplish when you don't have an atmosphere and you can't use parachutes. You're relying entirely on your engines and on your automated systems and on your software. And that's where Chandrayaan-2 failed. It had a software failure, and it plummeted out of control and slammed into the moon just short of the rim of Shackleton Crater, very close indeed to where we intend to set up our future bases. Yeah, I think they named the crash site. But how long it will be a month before they're there, mid-August. Once again, I don't remember the exact date. I just know it's going to be mid-August by the time they actually set down. So that's going to be an important moment as well. It may be something that is that has live stream coverage. If it does, and I'm available, I will cover that as well, because that moment will be super important, obviously, arguably more important than this broadcast. Producer, do you know how long to injection? Thank you, Mika. I really do appreciate that. Once I'm in Europe, I'll no longer need to wake up so early. Good point. It will be a help. Right. We're getting to the point where they're going to boost into an orbital injection. Once again, it's going to take a considerable period of time before they can get to the moon. It will involve multiple orbits of the Earth as they continue to pick up speed with gravitational flyby after gravitational flyby until eventually they escape Earth's gravity and make their way to the moon. And then there will be consecutive orbits of the moon after that, one after another, as the probe gradually descends towards the lunar surface before it actually makes its final approach. So this is going to be a more complicated process than the direct shot missions that we were accustomed to with the Apollo missions or the Artemis 1 mission. I'm sorry, repeat. Okay, we're about 15 minutes away from orbital insertion. Okay, we're getting another burn from the engines. But thus far, everything's still looking really, really smooth. Once again, please like, please subscribe, and thanks everybody for your support. Going to be the support will be extremely important to this upcoming tour that I'm taking of North America here in a little over a month. Separation, payload separation achieved. The rocket has now done its job. We're getting a little bit of footage now from the upper stage, and there we have Chandrayaan-3 has achieved separation. You can see the engines on the propulsion bus, the propulsion module on the vehicle as it's pulling away, and yeah, we got some exciting stuff indeed coming. Could we see it in the sky? Asked Anthony. You know what? I think you probably could. I think it's going to be close enough for a while anyway, and bright enough to be observable. You might want to pull up that there are a number of sites that you can go to where you can pull that up and see. But obviously, as you can see, there's a lot of people getting up from their seats right now, and the reason they're doing that is because the rocket's job is over. The rocket has done what it was supposed to do. It has delivered Chandrayaan-3 to the point to where it should be delivered. And at this point now, the probe needs to take over. Its engines are going to do the job. And as you can see, you kind of get an idea of just how much effort needs to be put into getting a vehicle away from Earth's gravity just to achieve an altitude of a few hundred kilometers. I mean, we required that entire rocket, its engines, the SRBs, everything, all that fuel, all of that incredible thrust just to get 4 metric tons up to that particular point. And now that vehicle will take over with much smaller engines, and it will carry it all the rest of the way to the moon. Of course, gravity will do that as well, but still you get an idea of just how difficult that is. So yes. Yeah. Oh, there's a long ways to go. Absolutely. All right, so we're getting a statement right now.
Travel towards moon in the coming days.
We're going to go ahead and clip that over
So
to you
let me
guys.
wish all the very best to Chandrayaan-3 for its further journey towards moon. Before that, let me introduce the team behind this mission, the mission director, Mr. Mohan Kumar, and also the project director of LVM3. And we have also the mission director for the Chandrayaan-3 craft, the project director of Chandrayaan-3, Veera Muthuvel. So,
hey, John, thanks for being a member. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Honorable Minister of State for Science and Technology and Departments of Space and Atomic Energy, Dr. Jitendra Singh, respected Chairman ISRO and Secretary Department of Space, former secretaries of the department, invited dignitaries, respected dignitaries and invitees. I am very happy to report here that the LVM-3 M4 vehicle has injected the Chandrayaan-3 satellite to the precise orbit, and once again the vehicle is proved to be the most reliable heavy lift vehicle of Indian Space Research
John,
Organization.
thank you so much. And yes, I am coming to Cincinnati.
ISRO family.
I'm going to go ahead and give you guys a quick review on
The
my tour
vehicle
dates
systems are in
when
the
we wrap things up
continuous
here,
process of quality
which will happen
improvement,
here in just a moment.
especially in the event of our human rating efforts towards making the systems reliable. Secondly, the payload also, capability of the payload also is improved by mission strategies as well as vehicle engineering approaches. We are in the process of increasing the launch frequency of this vehicle considering the national requirements as well as satellite demands. Here, so many improvements we have incorporated in this vehicle. For example, the S200 nozzle, they are processed exactly as per the human rating standards, enabling us to have 100% NDT, and the inherent pocket erosion characteristics are removed. The L100 stage Vikas engine, mostly it is 100% qualified to be the human rated engine with indigenously developed LET throats, and the pocket, backwall gas entry also is eliminated, and it is a perfect system. And CE20 stage also is
Yes.
perfectly.
This seems to be a universal language. I think all of us know this. Space flight gets all of us worked up, doesn't it? Doesn't matter what language you speak. It doesn't matter what country you're in. These people all get so worked up over space, and that, of all things, should draw us together.
Executives for all the supports all along the launch campaign process as well as the launch. Once the launch manifest is released and mission executives are identified, really this is a penance of so many across the ISRO centers, our launch vehicle centers, VSSC, LPSC, IPRC, IASU, SDSC, SHAR, URSC, and SAC, along with all our industrial partners, major players to the small-scale industries who supply us with
Jotor, please remind me.
quality products, the suppliers of chemicals,
where have I met
ingredients, suppliers of avionics systems, and our own GOCO facility operators. Actually, the industrial manpower is really our ISRO's virtual manpower. Everybody's efforts went into this, and also the prayers and best wishes of all our seniors, retired executives, everyone's prayers and our own family members. I take this opportunity to pray God Almighty for all the blessings in the form of this success, which was the penance by the ISRO family for last 73 days. And my prayerful pranams for the successful continuous operations of the Chandrayaan spacecraft for
Hello,
its
Chris.
safe and soft landing on lunar
Hope
surface
things are going well
and
in
further
Cornwall today.
experiments. Thank you. Jai Hind.
Respected Chairman ISRO, Center Directors, dignitaries and my team Chandrayaan-3, very happy to note that our Chandrayaan-3 has been injected into an intended orbit with very close orbital parameters. Congratulations and thanks to LVM-3 team. And all our spacecraft health parameters are normal, including the power generations in both propulsion module and lander module. Our journey to moon has begun now for the most awaited soft landing. We'll be closely monitoring and controlling the spacecraft from ISRO Bangalore.
Hello, Scotland.
Many
Hope you're doing
critical
well
events
today.
are lined
Thanks,
up,
everybody,
starting
for
from
tuning
earthbound
in.
maneuvers,
Still over
insertion
200
into the
people
lunar
watching.
orbit,
Really
and
appreciate it.
separation of lander, and set of deboost maneuvers, and finally the power descent phase for a soft landing. I take this opportunity to thank Chairman ISRO, Director URSC, and all the center directors for entrusting me this opportunity, who are behind, who have been the motivational and guidance force behind this mission. My special thanks to Chandrayaan-3 project executives, Associate Project Director Kalpana, Deputy Project Directors, Project Managers across the ISRO centers who have provided an excellent support in building the spacecraft. My special thanks to
All right, producer, can we cut away real quick?
the expert committees for their constant guidance throughout the various...
Yeah, no, good. Let's go ahead. Guys, I don't want to attach less importance to what's going on here, but at the same time, these are thanks being given out, and my time is beginning to run out. Actually, I have some obligations to pursue. Chris, thank you so much for the 20 quid. Really do appreciate that. Thank you so much. And once again, I want to make sure that you guys are properly appraised of everything that's happening next, not only with this mission, but also with this channel. As I've mentioned before, there's going to be quite a number of orbits executed of the Earth first by this probe as it picks up speed, one gravitational slingshot after another, till it eventually achieves escape orbit. Then it will enter lunar orbit, and then it will gradually make its way down to the point to where it can release where the propulsion module breaks away and the probe is released, and then it will descend, and that's where things get super important. That's where the last mission failed, was at the last possible moment where they had a software failure. Let's hope that doesn't happen this time. If the probe sets down, then of course the rover needs to function properly as well, and they don't have a ton of time either. This mission will only last for a single lunar day. That's 14 Earth days, of course, but a single lunar day. When it passes into lunar darkness, that will be it. It will lose its power source and it'll die. So this is a relatively short mission and a critical mission that all needs to function properly. So we will continue to cover this as things develop. And let me go ahead and once again to restate what I said at the beginning of this broadcast. I'm going to be touring North America soon. I've raised the necessary funds on my GoFundMe and also from PayPal in order to cover at least my first two destinations. That includes Orlando and also Norfolk. That is not 100% confirmed for Norfolk, but I think that's where the second location will be. After that, it's going to be Pittsburgh. It's going to be Cincinnati. It's going to be Toronto. It's going to be Denver. It's going to be Flagstaff. It's going to be Los Angeles. If you want to come to any of these cities and come see me, feel free to go ahead and contribute to the GoFundMe or to PayPal. Just send a message that that's what you're contributing towards. And for every $10, I'll give you a ticket to the event and a free copy of my book, of my new book coming out that I've been working very hard on lately. The title of the book being How Starship Will Save the Earth. I really appreciate you guys tuning in today. Thank you so much for doing all of that. India has accomplished an amazing thing today and well on their way to doing something that nobody else has ever done. Executing a soft landing at the lunar South Pole. Very important that they carry this off successfully. We wish them all the best. Thank you very much for watching, and as always, stay angry about space.
Thank you.